We always think of home as the safest place in the world. We trust that the walls around us will keep the danger out. But what if the danger is already next door, watching, waiting, studying your every move? When I first moved into my new neighborhood, everything seemed perfect. Kids laughed in the yards, couples waved during evening walks, and even my neighbor, Mr. Collins, greeted me with a warm smile and an apple pie. But I learned very quickly that friendly faces can hide the darkest secrets. What started as small, strange encounters soon grew into something I couldn't ignore, and by the time I realized the truth, it was far too late. This is the true story of how the man next door nearly destroyed me, and why I'll never, ever look at neighbors the same way again. When I first met Mr. Collins, I thought he was just a lonely old man trying to be kind. His house sat directly beside mine, slightly run down but still neat enough to blend into the rest of the street. The paint was chipped, the porch creaked when he stepped on it, and yet everything seemed carefully maintained, as if he had nothing better to do than keep busy. He greeted me with a warm smile the day I moved in, even offered to carry one of my heavier boxes inside. "If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to knock," he said in a low, gravelly voice. At first I appreciated the friendliness, but as the days passed I started noticing patterns. Every time I came home late from work, he was there, sitting silently on his porch with a cigarette between his fingers, his eyes following me as I walked to my door. If I went jogging early in the morning, he'd already be outside by his mailbox, nodding slowly as I passed by. It wasn't just coincidence. He always seemed to know exactly when I was there. I told myself he was just curious about his new neighbor, maybe even harmless. But there was something in his gaze that unsettled me, too sharp, too focused. His stare lingered long enough to make me uncomfortable, yet he never looked away unless I did first. The first time I truly felt uneasy was one evening as I pulled my curtains shut. My eyes drifted outside, and there he was, sitting on his darkened porch, his cigarette glowing faintly. He wasn't just glancing, he was staring directly into my window. And when I froze, caught in his gaze, his lips curled into the faintest smile. That smile told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't just neighborly curiosity. Something wasn't right. It started with little things. At first they seemed too minor to matter, but together they painted a disturbing picture. One morning I walked out back and saw the gate wide open. I was certain I had latched it the night before. I brushed it off as carelessness, but the same thing happened again 2 nights later. This time I double-checked the lock before going to bed. In the morning, the gate swung loosely once more. Then came the trash cans. I kept them neatly by the fence, but I woke one day to find them pulled closer to my back steps. Scattered across the porch were cigarette butts, the same brand Mr. Collins always smoked. My stomach knotted. The worst moment, though, was inside. I was getting ready for bed when I noticed my living room window unlocked. I never touched that window. I told myself maybe I made a mistake, but the unease gnawed at me. That night I dreamed of someone standing over me while I slept. The next morning, when I opened my dresser drawer, I froze. Lying neatly on top of my folded clothes was a small piece of paper. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. In precise handwriting were 5 words that made my blood run cold. "You looked peaceful last night." My hands shook as I dialed 911. The operator's calm voice did little to steady me as I explained what I had found. Within minutes, 2 officers arrived, their patrol car lights casting a faint red glow across my living room. I showed them the note, expecting alarm, but instead I got raised eyebrows and skeptical glances. One officer, a younger man scribbling in a notebook, asked if I was sure I hadn't left the window unlocked myself. The older one suggested it could have been a prank. Their casual tone made my skin crawl. This wasn't a prank, this was someone inside my home. "I know who it is," I whispered. "It's my neighbor. He watches me all the time." They exchanged a quick look, then one of them shrugged. "Unless you catch him inside or we find proof, there's nothing we can do." They left me with a vague promise to patrol the area more often, but the message was clear. I was on my own. That night, I tried to convince myself it was over, that maybe the police presence would scare him off. But around 2 a.m., a sound jolted me awake, a slow, deliberate scraping against my window. My heart pounded as I pulled back the curtain. There he was, Mr. Collins, standing in my yard, his cigarette glowing faintly in the dark. His face was tilted up, eyes locked directly on mine. He didn't move. Didn't blink. I screamed, grabbing my phone, but by the time the police returned, he was gone. They searched his porch, his yard, nothing, but I knew better. That stare wasn't just curiosity. It was a warning. For a few days, things were quiet, almost too quiet. I changed the locks, installed cameras, even nailed the windows shut. I carried a bat with me from room to room like a child clutching a toy for comfort. But silence in a house like mine wasn't reassuring, it was suffocating. I knew he was still out there. I just didn't know when he'd return. Then one night, a new sound woke me. It wasn't the usual creak of the gate or shuffle outside the window. This came from inside, beneath me. A faint scratching like someone dragging their nails along wood. My stomach tightened as I grabbed my flashlight and crept down to the basement. The air was damp, heavy with dust, and every step down the creaking stairs made my heart hammer harder. The sound grew louder. It wasn't my imagination. I swept the beam across the clutter until it landed on an old wooden shelf pressed against the wall. The sound came from behind it. With trembling hands, I pushed the shelf aside, and that's when I saw it, a dark opening. A crawl space. The light cut through the narrow passage, revealing crumpled blankets, half-eaten food wrappers, and cigarette butts scattered across the floor. My chest tightened. This wasn't a hiding spot, it was a living space. Before I could move, something shifted in the shadows. Then I saw him. Mr. Collins crouched low, his face twisted into a feral grin. His eyes glowed in the beam of my flashlight as he began crawling toward me. I dropped the light in shock, plunging the basement into darkness, my breath caught in my throat. He had been in my house all along. Darkness swallowed the basement as the flashlight rolled across the floor, its beam flickering wildly. My pulse thundered in my ears. I could hear him, shuffling, breathing heavily, his movements scraping against the concrete. "Don't run," his voice rasped, low and guttural, echoing through the crawl space. "You're mine now." Adrenaline surged through me. My hand fumbled for anything, something to use. My fingers wrapped around the handle of the baseball bat I had carried downstairs. With trembling hands, I tightened my grip, then he lunged. Out of the shadows, Mr. Collins came crawling like some twisted animal, his face lit by the weak glow of the flashlight. His fingers clawed for my leg, nails biting into my skin. I swung. The bat cracked against his arm with a sickening thud, but he barely flinched, snarling as he grabbed at me again. We grappled in the dark, his breath hot against my face, his strength far greater than I expected. Desperation took over. I screamed, pushing him back, swinging wildly. The bat struck his shoulder, his ribs, finally his head. He let out a guttural cry before collapsing onto the cold floor, motionless. I didn't wait to see if he would get up again. Heart racing, I bolted up the stairs, slamming the basement door shut and locking it behind me. My chest burned, every breath sharp and ragged. Through the silence, I could still hear faint movement below. A scrape, a moan. He wasn't finished, but neither was I. With shaking hands, I dialed 911 again. This time they would find him. This time they would believe me. And as the sirens wailed in the distance, I realized the fight for my life had only just begun.